So I'm gonna introduce you to Ensanguinate, the band. Ensanguinate is a death metal outfit from Ljubljana, Slovenia, formed about a year ago. It's basically the brainchild of our frontman Andrei, who brought us the other members with the aim to rediscover the true essence of death metal, that is to build upon the legacy of titans such as Slayer and Possessed, Celtic Frost, Death, and various others, but also try to add something of our own to the mixture.
Alright, so like Miha, our bass player, already told you, the idea behind our band from the get-go was to go back to the essence of death metal, what made this type of music appealing to us. So it definitely, I knew from the get-go that it had to have the word blood in it, that it had to have that sanguine element component to it, just to signify something that's that's pure, but it's also very much drenched in sinister ideology, philosophy that is intrinsic to this kind of music. So the idea behind the name Ensanguinate is that you imbue something with blood, with sanguine, dark energy, and that is something that we want to hold true for our music, for our band, and that's our mission statement, and has been since the get go.
Entranced by Decay is our fourth track demo. It's an interesting product because we didn't actually get to rehearse the songs before we recorded them, as a band at least. And in that way, I think it'll be cool to compare this demo to our debut record. To see how the songs will change, not much in terms of structure or ideas, but more in the sense of how we've grown accustomed to each other as players, and I think the execution of these songs will be a lot more different, a lot more organic and energetic to what we offered on this demo. In terms of the songs, one song, which is the physical copy exclusive, was pretty old. It was from a project that Andrei did that unfortunately didn't come into fruition, but thematically the song fit with what we wanted to do as a band, as Ensanguinate. And I think Pit of Ash is another standout because it was the first song that we felt was really a group effort and is more indicative of how we do things right now. So, we each add our own trademark to whatever we're trying to do, and it always serves as a song. It's not like, oh, I want to put this part in there, or yeah, I wrote this part, so that should be there. No, we always ask what the song needs. Does it need a solo? Does it need this effect here? Does it need a drum roll? Does it need this crazy blast beat here? So that was our first kind of. We dipped our toes into that territory, and we felt instantly connected to that kind of workflow. So from that perspective, I think it's a very representative um, collection of songs that will also appear. Some of them will appear on our debut album. You can check it out on ensanguinate.bandcamp.com. Maybe we'll put a link over here. So yeah, grab the demo, grab the physical copy or the download, and enjoy.
So I think the black metal and death metal are intrinsically connected as far as subject matter is concerned, and as far as lyrics are concerned. But the main difference is that black metal revels in allegory. It uses names, and it uses certain imagery to to um, to achieve its goal, which is basically dealing with the adversarial, dealing with Satanism, with the concept of death through the allegory of Satan. And death metal can be that as well, and there's definitely an element of that present in our music. But the idea is that it's more direct, both musically and lyrically. It goes for the jugular. So Entranced by Decay deals very much directly, and from an internal perspective deals with death, mortality, decay, and decrepitude. And the main idea, the main philosophy behind the lyrics is to draw power from it, to draw energy from it. And it's a big influence on our music as well. Because the titles often come early, you know, along with the first riff, or even before any of the music is written. Or certain lines, certain, you know, bits and pieces of lyrics are going to pop up in my head, and they inform the music very much. They give it energy, and that direct negativity, the obsession with death, and sublimating that into music is a very powerful creative tool, and that's the connection between the lyrics and between the lyrics and the music and Ensanguinate. They're linked together in the sense that one fuels the other, and they inform each other for sure. So the cover art originates from a drawing a friend of mine, Tina Karanovic, had already made before, and it's kind of like a riff on that drawing she made, but tailored more towards our lyrics. And the idea is that it's very static. It's not as dynamic as a lot of other extreme metal covers are. You know, there isn't any movement or violence in the typical sense that you'd usually expect from an extreme metal cover, and that was definitely very much conscious. It was a conscious decision to counter that, you know, because a lot of extreme metal, like I said, deals with the external side of things. It describes what it sees. It describes motion. It describes violence, or it describes something that's happening in the outside world or what have you. And I wanted the cover to be static, to kind of like signify introspection and just kind of like retreating within yourself to deal, or not necessarily to deal, but to process, to sublimate topics, the central topic of the demo, which is, you know, decay and death and mortality, but to do it in a contemplative manner, you know. So the figure is basically ruminating in death, and it's becoming a statue. It's calcifying. You can see stone, you can see it falling apart. So that was definitely very important, and it was pretty much a conscious counter to a lot of contemporary black and death metal, where the covers are very dynamic. You know, they seem like they're moving, and ours kind of almost seems like a statue. It seems like it's stuck in place, and it's also a great little bit of irony, because the music is so wild. It's almost unhinged, and then we have this cover art. You know, it has willows on it, which are, you know, very much sorrowful, and usually considered like contemplative, sorrowful trees. It has a statue on it. It signifies contemplation, rumination, and our music is active, you know, on the life front. It incites a reaction, a physical reaction from people. So that's a great dichotomy, you know. It's something that you have to revel in as an artist. I think that you can embrace dichotomies, even if they're paradoxical at times, you know.
Well, since we're actively looking for a label, I think it would be pretty hypocritical to say we think, oh, labels aren't important. But I think labels these days are important for different reasons than what they used to be important for. I think they're not as necessary to get started as a band, to start gaining some steam, gaining some recognition. You can pretty much go the DIY route like we did and invest some money and some time into getting the skills and the equipment that you need for a decent recording of your work. You can post it on Bandcamp, YouTube. There's a million platforms on which you can promote your music. And from that perspective, from the perspective of production and execution, I don't think it's as necessary to have a label deal. But what I think you do gain by having a label deal these days is two things. One thing would be a kind of, let's say, confirmation that your work is being appreciated and noticed by someone other than maybe your local fan base or your friends or whatever. And it's something that gives you extra motivation and drive to keep doing better and try and outdo yourself as an artist and a musician. And sort of connected to that, the second thing would be I think it gives you a very clear goal to strive towards. I remember when I was in Panic, and before that, my first band, we didn't have a label deal, and we just kind of put the record out there at our own pace, and it was okay, it was fun. But when I got into Panic, we had a record deal, and there was this contractual obligation to complete an album by this and that deadline, and it wasn't a very inhumane deadline. It was really normal, but what it did was there was this click inside me, like, okay, we really gotta sit down and do this, and we did. And I think from that perspective, it's important to have a label if you're that kind of person, goal-oriented person, and that gives you a kind of structure to the way your band works. So as a goal, as a means of extra promotion outside of what your normal reach would be, definitely. As a tool to get started, I think these days you can manage a lot yourself without help. So I think it's still important to have a label deal. It's just you have to know what that deal will get you and how to make the best of it. Not really, no. We've had a different problem, and that is, I think, a problem a lot of bands have right now, and especially new bands that haven't had a chance to prove themselves yet, is we can't get shows. We only had a couple of shows so far, but one of those shows we actually gained because of the COVID pandemic, because one of the bands had to cancel. And yeah, so the problem isn't so much postponing or canceling, it's getting shows in general. Venues aren't open, there's restrictions in place, and you really can't do much besides, apply if you want the event to happen, see if it goes through.
All four of us combined have several years of stage performing experience, and that really showed on our first concert together when we just clicked. Everything went fairly perfect, and it was a really great show. Then we had one concert where we were called to play just a couple of days before the actual concert because one of the other bands canceled, and we went there without any big preparations, just our muscle memory and our equipment. We went there, we played the whole show, but in that 40 or 45 minutes, everything happened that actually can happen. Everything that can go wrong went wrong. Like my drums were moving all the time. I messed up several intros in the songs. Bass amplifier was just screaming all the time. Andre, our singer, tried to save every situation, and he really managed to do that quite well. So it was a really fun gig, and we saw what can go wrong, and hopefully we hopefully we did a good job. Each one of us listens to different kinds of music, like not all metal, maybe even some experimental stuff and any other genre. But in 2020, there were some releases that captured our attention. Especially, I think Benediction's new songs. They just released with their previous, actually, their one of their first singers, and it's brutal, it's fast, it's everything that you want from old school death metal that we were and we are inspired by. And one of the more new metal or experimental stuff that was released this year also was by Analna Thrak, and their new album is just mind-blowingly fast, melodic, everything that you want in a new kind of black death metal groovy stuff. As far as this COVID-19 situation around the world goes, yeah, it will affect the music industry dramatically. It already did. Well, it has its drawbacks and some good points, but we'll get to that. I think from our point of view, the biggest drawback is that we can't have live shows. We can't show the people what we were preparing all this time, why we practiced our asses off, and this is the main reason why we do all that, to perform live, to show people what we were doing, to feel their energy and to get their feedback, and just have a great time. This is a rush of adrenaline that we're definitely missing. The other drawback is that we can't have practices like we normally do because we're in a lockdown. We can't get together because we live in different cities, different parts of Slovenia. And yeah, we miss hanging out, making music together, but we can't do that through the internet. It's not the same, definitely not the same, but it's just one of the things that help us go through this time. We have our Facebook chats and Skype sessions where we share ideas, try to figure out how to make new music and everything. But all in all, this COVID-19 situation is shit, and we hope it's over soon so we can perform live.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the Slovenian metal scene. First of all, the Slovenian metal scene is small, which means that a lot of our audience is comprised of our friends and people we know, which results in the problem that it's sometimes quite hard to get real feedback. Second of all, the Slovenian scene is quite diverse for such a small scene. But one problem that we see is that our concerts, the concerts in Slovenia, the bands that are playing, they don't really have a lot in common. So we would rather see bands group together, but by a common idea behind it. Future plans: we're trying to write as much material as we can, with the aim to have it to release the album sometime next year, and yeah, to start playing again live as soon as we can.